Admiral Sarah Hayes stood at the bridge of the UES Hyperion, her weathered hands clasped behind her back as she studied the holographic display before her. The colony world of New Eden appeared as a serene blue sphere, but the tension in the command center told a different story. 3 merchant vessels had vanished in this sector over the past month. Clean disappearances, no distress calls, no debris. Contact, bearing 047 Mark 183, Lieutenant Rodriguez announced, his voice cutting through the ambient hum of bridge operations. Energy signature matches the anomalies from previous incidents. Hayes nodded slowly, a grim smile playing at the corners of her mouth. The Vrox pirates thought they were hunting prey, but they had no idea they were walking into a trap months in the making. The Vrox had emerged 6 months ago, striking shipping lanes across human space with devastating effect. Their technology was superior. Advanced cloaking systems, weapons that could disable ships without destroying them, and FTL drives that left human vessels in the dust. They'd seemed unstoppable, until Hayes noticed something they all missed: patterns. The pirates were methodical, efficient, and entirely too predictable. They stuck to their playbook because it had always worked. Why change a winning strategy? But Hayes knew something the Vrox didn't. Humans were masters of adaptation, and they'd been studying every raid, every engagement, every scrap of data. All ships maintain emissions control, Hayes subvocalized through her neural link. 5 other vessels lay hidden in the debris field around New Eden's third moon, waiting. The Hyperion itself was powered down to minimal systems, appearing as nothing more than a derelict mining vessel. The Vrox ship materialized from its cloaking field, a sleek, predatory vessel that resembled a manta ray carved from obsidian. It approached the helpless mining vessel with the confidence of an apex predator. "They're scanning us," Rodriguez reported, reading minimal power signatures, just as planned. Hayes watched the distance counter tick down. The Vrox were cautious, but their arrogance was their weakness. They'd never encountered a species that could adapt quickly enough to pose a threat. Their success had bred complacency. "All ships, prepare to execute silent strike on my mark," Hayes transmitted. The plan was audacious, some would say insane. But that's what made it human. The Vrox ship extended its boarding tubes, exactly as predicted. They never destroyed valuable mining vessels if they could help it. Better to steal the cargo and sell the ship. Now, 6 electromagnetic pulse mines, disguised as debris, activated simultaneously. The Vrox ship shields were optimized for energy weapons and kinetic impacts. They never expected an attack using focused electromagnetic disruption. Their advanced systems, so superior to human technology, proved to be their undoing. The more complex the system, the more vulnerable to cascading failures. The Vrox vessel's lights flickered and died. Before they could recover, the 5 hidden human ships emerged from the debris field, positioning themselves strategically around the disabled vessel. Not that it was necessary. The pirates' weapons were offline, their vaunted cloaking device useless. UES Hyperion to Vrox vessel. Hayes broadcast on all frequencies. Your systems will remain disabled for approximately 30 minutes. During that time, my Marines will be boarding your ship. You can either surrender immediately and be treated according to the Galactic Conventions on Prisoners of War, or you can resist and face the consequences. You have 2 minutes to decide. The response came quickly, perhaps the first time the Vrox had ever surrendered without a fight. As Hayes watched the boarding operations commence, she allowed herself a small moment of satisfaction. The pirates had made a critical mistake. They assumed technological superiority guaranteed victory. They forgot that humans had spent their entire history overcoming superior forces through creativity, adaptability, and sheer determination. "Send word to command," Hayes ordered. "Operation Silent Strike successful. We have prisoners for interrogation and an intact Vrox vessel for study. Most importantly, we have proof. They can be beaten." The real work was just beginning. This was only one ship, and there were dozens of Vrox vessels still raiding human space. But now, they had what they needed: intelligence, technology to analyze, and most importantly, a shattered myth of invincibility. The Vrox would learn what countless others had discovered throughout human history. Technology alone doesn't win wars. The most dangerous weapon in humanity's arsenal wasn't their ships or their guns, but their ability to adapt, improvise, and overcome. As the boarding teams reported in, Hayes began planning the next phase. The Vrox thought they were the hunters, but they were about to become the hunted. Humanity wasn't just fighting back. They were about to change the rules of the game entirely. The captured Vrox vessel hung in the orbital dry dock above Mars like a dark jewel. Dr. Maya Chen walked through its curved corridors, her hand scanner humming as it analyzed the alien technology surrounding her. 3 weeks had passed since Admiral Hayes' successful trap, and humanity's best minds had been working around the clock to understand their prize. Found something interesting. Her colleague Dr. James Wilson called from an adjacent chamber. Maya ducked through the oval doorway to find him examining what appeared to be the ship's main computer core. Look at this power configuration. They're not just using quantum computing. They're using quantum entanglement for real-time communication between ships. Maya nodded, adding the information to her growing mental model of Vrox technology. That explains how they coordinate their attacks so perfectly. No lag in communications, no signals to intercept. Exactly. But here's the beautiful part. They're so reliant on this technology that they don't have any backup systems. No conventional communications at all. A slow smile spread across Maya's face. So if we could disrupt their quantum network, they'd be completely blind. James finished. No way to coordinate, no way to call for help. The discovery proved to be just one of many weaknesses they found in the Vrox systems. The pirates' technology was incredibly advanced, but it was also surprisingly rigid. They had optimized everything to such a degree that they had no redundancy, no flexibility. It was efficient but fragile. Across the solar system, humanity's response to the Vrox threat was taking shape. Ships were being retrofitted with hybrid systems, a combination of human ingenuity and adapted Vrox technology. They weren't trying to match the pirates' capabilities exactly. Instead, they were creating something new, something unpredictable. Admiral Hayes stood in the war room of the Mars Defense Command, reviewing the latest tactical simulations. The holographic display showed dozens of red dots representing known Vrox raid locations, forming a pattern that stretched across human space. The quantum disruptor prototypes are ready, General Santos reported, highlighting several green points on the map. We can't match their communication speed, but we can deny it to them. The real question is, how do we get them to commit enough forces to make this worth our while? Hayes studied the display thoughtfully. We give them something they can't resist, something that appeals to their pride as much as their greed. She manipulated the hologram, zooming in on a particular sector. Here, the Arcturus mining colony. It's one of our richest platinum sources, and we've been keeping it heavily guarded. What if we suddenly weren't? The plan took shape quickly. Operation Counter Protocol would appear to be a massive strategic blunder on humanity's part, a temporary withdrawal of forces to deal with a manufactured crisis elsewhere. The Vrox's own arrogance would do the rest. 2 weeks later, Maya stood on the bridge of the UES Hyperion, now upgraded with hybrid technology. The ship's systems were a unique fusion of human and Vrox engineering, but with critical redundancies built in. They weren't trying to beat the pirates at their own game. They were changing the rules entirely. Multiple Vrox signatures detected, Lieutenant Rodriguez announced. Reading 5. No, 7 vessels approaching the Arcturus perimeter. They're moving exactly as predicted. Hayes nodded to Maya. Dr. Chen, commence quantum disruption. Maya activated the device they'd developed from their study of the captured ship. Across 7 Vrox vessels, their quantum communication networks suddenly went dark. The pirates' perfect coordination vanished in an instant. They're trying to re-establish communications using conventional methods, Rodriguez reported. But their systems aren't designed for it. They're broadcasting in the clear, no encryption. Send in the strike teams, Hayes ordered. The trap was sprung, but this was more than just an ambush. This was the debut of humanity's new approach to space warfare. 12 human vessels emerged from hiding, their hybrid systems allowing them to appear as little more than background radiation until the last moment. The Vrock's ships, unable to coordinate their defenses effectively, found themselves facing an enemy that could predict their every move. Because humans had learned to think like them, while remaining unpredictable themselves. The battle was brief but decisive. 5 Vrock ships were captured intact, their crews surrendering when they realized their superior technology had been turned against them. 2 managed to escape, but that was part of the plan. They needed survivors to spread the word. Humanity wasn't just fighting back, they were winning. In the aftermath, Maya reviewed the battle data, already thinking of improvements for their hybrid systems. The Vrocks had made the classic mistake of assuming that advanced technology alone guaranteed victory. They forgot that technology was just a tool. It was how you used it that mattered. Send word to all human colonies, Hayes commanded. Operation Counter Protocol was a success. Phase 3 begins in 48 hours. She turned to Maya with a grim smile. The pirates thought they could hunt us with impunity. Time to show them what happens when humanity decides to hunt back. Commander Jack Torres sat in the dimly lit interrogation room aboard the UES Hyperion, studying the Vrock's captain across the table. The aliens' iridescent scales shifted colors with anxiety, a testament to their species' inability to hide their emotions. They'd never needed to before. "Let's talk about your supply chain," Torres said, sliding a holographic display across the table. It showed a map of known Vrock's raid locations, overlaid with calculated fuel consumption rates. Your ships can't operate indefinitely. You have bases, repair facilities, somewhere to fence your stolen goods. The Vrock's captain's scales flickered between deep purple and green, their equivalent of a derisive laugh. "You think we fear your primitive tactics? Our network has stood for centuries. You cannot hope to." "Actually," Torres interrupted, "we already found 3 of your forward bases." He updated the display, showing the locations of recently captured Vrock's facilities. "What interests me is how you're all using the same exact security protocols, the same response patterns, even the same facility layouts. It's almost like..." He let the thought hang in the air. The Vrock's scales shifted to a pale blue of realization. They were beginning to understand their greatest weakness. Their absolute confidence in their superiority had led to dangerous standardization. Across human space, Operation Spiderweb was in full swing. Admiral Hayes had transformed the human fleet into a web of hunter-killer groups, each operating with near autonomy, but coordinating through a deliberately randomized communication network. Unlike the Vrock's rigid quantum communication system, human ships used a constantly evolving mix of methods: quantum bursts, conventional signals, even coded light pulses. On the bridge of the UES Artemis, Captain Sarah Chen, no relation to Dr. Maya Chen, watched her tactical display as another Vrock supply convoy fell into their trap. The pirates had become predictable in their desperation, falling back on pre-programmed responses that human forces had long since learned to anticipate. "Target vessels approaching the minefield," her tactical officer reported. "They're following escape vector gamma, exactly as predicted." The minefield wasn't conventional explosives. It was a cloud of microscopic quantum disruptors, each programmed to activate only when it detected the specific energy signature of a Vrock's drive system. Human ships could pass through unaffected, but pirate vessels would find themselves suddenly blind and deaf. "Launch the EMG warheads," Chen ordered. The electromagnetic gravity weapons were another human innovation, relatively primitive technology used in an unexpected way. They didn't try to breach the Vrock's advanced shields directly. Instead, they created localized gravitational distortions that the shields weren't designed to handle. Back in the Mars Defense Command, Dr. Maya Chen and her team had made another breakthrough. They discovered that the Vrax's technological development had plateaued centuries ago. They'd reached such an advanced level that they'd stopped innovating, stopped adapting. Every ship used identical systems because those systems were considered perfect. "Look at this," she explained to Admiral Hayes, pointing to a simulation of Vrax's shield harmonics. "They've optimized their technology so completely that they have no variation, no room for adjustment. Every ship's systems resonate at exactly the same frequencies." Hayes understood immediately. "So if we find a way through one ship's defenses, we can get through them all," Maya finished. They never considered that someone might reverse engineer their technology because they've never encountered a species capable of it before. The information spread through the human fleet like wildfire. Each engagement with the Vrax became a testing ground for new tactics, new adaptations. The pirates found themselves facing an enemy that learned and evolved with every encounter, while their own responses remained rigidly predictable. In the interrogation room, Torres watched the Vrax captain's scales shift to the deep red of defeat. The alien had finally realized what they were up against, not just a technologically inferior species, but one that turned that very inferiority into an advantage. Humans hadn't tried to match Vrax technology. They'd found ways to make it irrelevant. "Your empire of piracy is falling," Torres said quietly. "Not because we're stronger or more advanced, but because we never stop adapting. Every defeat teaches us something new. Every victory shows us a better way. You've been standing still for centuries, Captain. We're just getting started." The Vrax captain's final color shift, to the white of total surrender, confirmed what human intelligence had already suspected. The pirates' entire operation was built on the assumption of technological supremacy. Once that assumption was shattered, their carefully constructed network began to crumble from within. Admiral Hayes reviewed the latest operation reports with grim satisfaction. 27 Vrax bases captured, 43 ships either destroyed or surrendered, hundreds of stolen vessels recovered. But more importantly, they'd broken the pirates' aura of invincibility. The word was spreading through the galaxy. "Mess with humanity at your own risk. Phase 4 is ready to begin," she announced to her command staff. "It's time to take the fight to their core territories." The Vrax thought they could treat human space as their private hunting ground. "Let's show them what real hunters can do." The massive space station hung in the void like a tarnished crown, its dark metal surface reflecting distant starlight. Deep in what had once been considered impenetrable Vrax territory, Operation Kingsnake was about to begin. Lieutenant Maria Santos watched from the bridge of the stealth corvette UES Shadowstrike as their small fleet approached their target, the central hub of the Vrax pirate empire. "Quantum signatures are masked," her tactical officer whispered, though there was no need for actual quiet in space. "They still think their long-range sensors are malfunctioning from our targeted virus." This mission represented humanity's most audacious move yet. Rather than continuing to react to Vrax raids, they had decided to strike at the heart of the pirates' operation. Dr. Maya Chen's latest innovation had made it possible. A computer virus that specifically targeted the Vrax's standardized sensor systems, making them see exactly what humans wanted them to see. Admiral Hayes's voice came through their secure comm system, using a frequency modulation pattern that changed every 3 seconds. "All ships, execute infiltration pattern Delta. Remember, we're not here to destroy. We're here to decapitate." The human fleet split into precisely coordinated groups, each ship running dark with minimal power signatures. They had learned to use the Vrax's own technology against them, but more importantly, they had learned when not to use it. Sometimes the oldest, simplest solutions were the best. Inside the massive station, the Vrax High Command remained unaware of the approaching threat. Their superior technology had made them complacent, unable to conceive of a scenario where a lesser species could penetrate their defenses. They'd never considered that their greatest weakness was their own certainty. Dr. Chen, aboard the flagship UES Hyperion, monitored the effectiveness of her virus, through quantum relay probes. Their automated defense systems are completely blind to our approach vectors, she reported. The virus has them convinced they're detecting routine traffic patterns. The first sign that something was wrong came when the station's outer docking rings suddenly lost power. The Vrock's commanders initially dismissed it as a minor malfunction. Their systems were perfect after all, so any issues must be temporary. By the time they realized their error, it was too late. Marine dropships, modified with hybrid stealth technology, attached to the station's hull like remoras on a shark. Special forces teams, led by Commander Torres, breached the outer shells using cutting tools specifically designed to counter Vrock's metal alloys. Security systems are responding exactly as predicted, Torres reported as his team moved through the station's corridors. They're falling back on programmed protocols, and we have their entire playbook. The Vrock's rigid adherence to standardization had become their undoing. Every security response, every countermeasure, was precisely what the human forces had trained for. The pirates had never needed to vary their tactics before, and now they found themselves unable to adapt quickly enough. Admiral Hayes watched the operation unfold from the Hyperion's command center. Status of the quantum disruption field. Holding steady, Lieutenant Rodriguez replied. The station's communication systems are completely isolated. They can't call for reinforcements. The station's internal defenses activated, but they were designed to repel frontal assaults by conventional forces. They weren't prepared for human special forces using modified Vrock's technology in ways the pirates had never imagined. The defenders found their own security systems working against them as the humans used captured access codes and exploited previously unknown vulnerabilities. In the station's central control room, the Vrock's high command was experiencing something they had never faced before: total strategic paralysis. Their perfect systems were failing, their unbeatable defenses were being bypassed, and their centuries of technological superiority meant nothing against an enemy that had learned to think around such advantages. Commander Torres's team reached the primary command center in record time. The Vrock's leaders, their scales shifting through patterns of disbelief and fear, found themselves confronted by humans wearing armor that incorporated their own stealth technology. In the name of the United Earth Government, Torres announced, "This facility is now under human control. Your empire of piracy ends today." The surrender was almost anticlimactic. The Vrock's, stripped of their technological advantages and faced with an enemy that had systematically dismantled their entire operation, had no fight left in them. Their reign of terror, built on the assumption of perpetual superiority, collapsed in the face of human adaptability and determination. As secure teams began downloading the station's databases, Admiral Hayes allowed herself a small smile. The Vrock's had made the same mistake that countless others had made throughout human history. They had assumed that superior technology guaranteed victory. They had forgotten that humanity's greatest weapon had always been its ability to learn, adapt, and overcome. "Send word to Earth Command," she ordered. "Operation Kingsnake successful. The Vrock's pirate network has been decapitated." She paused, considering the broader implications of their victory, and add a personal note: "We need to prepare for what comes next. Word of this will spread through the galaxy. Other species will learn that humanity isn't just another technological backwater to be raided and exploited. We're something they've never encountered before. An enemy that gets stronger with every defeat, that learns from every encounter, that never stops adapting." The capture of the Vrock's Central Command Station marked more than just the end of a pirate threat. It was humanity's announcement to the galaxy at large: "Underestimate us at your peril." The observation deck of the captured Vrock's command station offered a breathtaking view of the surrounding nebula, its swirling purple and blue gases creating an eerily beautiful backdrop. Admiral Hayes stood with her hands clasped behind her back, watching as human ships patrolled alongside converted Vrock's vessels, now bearing Earth fleet markings. Dr. Maya Chen approached quietly, holding a data tablet displaying the latest analysis of the station's archives. "The quantum database decryption is complete," she reported. "We found something interesting. The Vrox weren't just pirates. They were technological gatekeepers. Hayes turned, raising an eyebrow. Explain. They've been systematically suppressing technological advancement in this sector of space for centuries. Any civilization that began to show signs of significant development would be targeted, their research facilities raided, their progress deliberately stunted. Maya's eyes gleamed with excitement. We didn't just break a pirate empire. We shattered a system of enforced technological stagnation. The implications were staggering. The Vrox hadn't merely been raiders. They had been maintaining their superiority by actively preventing other species from advancing. Their perfect technology hadn't evolved in centuries because they had ensured no one else could challenge them to improve. Commander Torres joined them, his combat armor now bearing the scars of the final battle. "We're getting signals from dozens of systems," he reported. "Word of the Vrox's fall is spreading. Other species that were victimized by them are reaching out, seeking allies and protection," Hayes added thoughtfully. "They'll be looking to develop their own technologies now that the Vrox aren't holding them back. We need to be careful how we handle this." In the weeks that followed, humanity found itself in an unexpected position. Rather than being viewed as technological inferiors, they were now seen as liberators who had done the impossible. Representatives from various species arrived at the station, each seeking to understand how humans had accomplished what they had thought impossible. Dr. Chen led a diplomatic delegation through the station's main conference chamber, where representatives from a dozen different species had gathered. "The key wasn't trying to match their technology," she explained. "It was understanding that technology is just a tool. The Vrox forgot that tools should adapt to their users, not the other way around." The gathered aliens listened intently as she demonstrated how humans had modified and improved upon Vrox technology, rather than simply copying it. The hybrid systems they had developed were less advanced in pure technical terms, but far more flexible and adaptable. Admiral Hayes, watching from her office, received a priority communication from Earth Command. The message was brief but significant. "Proceed with Operation Open Hand." She smiled, understanding the importance of this moment. Humanity's victory over the Vrox had earned them respect, but what they did next would define their role in the galaxy for generations to come. "Begin the technology sharing protocols," she ordered. "But do it our way. We're not giving them fish or teaching them to fish. We're teaching them how to invent better ways to fish." The next phase of human expansion into the galaxy wouldn't be driven by conquest or technological superiority, but by something the Vrox had never understood: the power of collaborative advancement. Each species they contacted brought new perspectives, new approaches, new ways of thinking about problems. In the station's main research facility, now transformed into a multi-species technical institute, Dr. Chen watched as human engineers worked alongside alien scientists. They weren't just sharing technology. They were sharing methodologies, teaching the fundamental human traits of adaptation and innovation. "The Vrox's greatest mistake," she told Admiral Hayes during their final meeting on the station, "wasn't underestimating our technology. It was underestimating our ability to learn and teach others to do the same." Hayes nodded, watching as a fleet of ships departed the station, each carrying representatives back to their homeworlds with not just new technology, but new ways of thinking about progress itself. "Humanity's greatest strength was never our weapons or our ships," Hayes reflected. "It was our understanding that true advancement comes from diversity of thought, from challenging assumptions, from never accepting that any technology is perfect or any problem unsolvable." The former pirate station, once a symbol of technological suppression, had become a beacon of collaborative innovation. Species that had been kept deliberately primitive by the Vrox were now working together, combining their unique perspectives with human adaptability to create something entirely new. As Hayes prepared to return to Earth, leaving the station under international control, she recorded one final log entry. The Vrox thought they had created a perfect system, unchanging and unbeatable. What they really created was a lesson for the galaxy, that the most dangerous force in the universe isn't superior technology or unbeatable weapons. It's the power of beings who refuse to accept limitations, who see every defeat as a lesson, and who understand that true strength lies not in having perfect tools, but in having the wisdom to know how to use them. The age of the Vrox was over. The age of collaborative innovation had begun, and humanity, the species that had once been dismissed as technological inferiors, was leading the way, not through dominance or superiority, but through their greatest gift to the galaxy, the understanding that the future belongs not to those who guard their advantages, but to those who share them, learn from them, and use them to lift others up alongside themselves.